Alright, hi guys, welcome back to PKFX YouTube trading channel. So today is Sunday and the market is pretty much closed right now, and as usual we'll do the weekend game plan for the upcoming few days to see what are the currency pairs going to do in the next few days. And as usual, I've already shortlisted the pairs that I'm interested to look at for the upcoming next few days. And I'm actually in a trade right now that I've been holding since last few days, over the weekends as well. One being with gold and another one is AUDCHF. So I'll walk through one by one. I'll start off with AUDCHF. So AUDCHF on a weekly, right now we are bullish. So this is the higher high and this is the higher low. This is the trade that I'm currently involved in. And if I look at daily as well, pretty much it's making the new higher high and this is the higher low. So weekly is bullish, daily is bullish. And if I go to the 4 hour as well, it's pretty much at the higher high point. This is the higher high and this is the higher low. Now, initially when I took this particular trade, I was aiming for a beautiful 1 to 4 risk to reward for this particular trade to play out all the way up here. And over the weekend, I actually noticed there's another weekly zone that may come in as a resistance. So I did not draw this box previously. I just only added this box. And just to show from where this came, if I go to the weekly, I have to go all the way behind here quite some time ago. So the structure points that I see for this particular trade, sorry, if I go to the, let me just go to the daily, 1 second. Yeah, so over here, this is the box. So we can see one structure point here, two structure point here, 3, 4, 5 structure points over here, 6, and also a beautiful bounce. Actually, this is not weekly, this is daily. So let me just label this particular structure points over here, this zone that I've drawn as a daily for ease of reference. So this box now is actually a daily resistance. So I've marked over here as daily for this particular box over here. That's pretty much coming in as a resistance right now. Once again, if I remove this box, it was never there. This was the aim for me for a 1 to 2 risk to reward. Now when the market opens back again, two things can happen. Maybe it will continue to rally towards the upside, or it rejects and now it pushes towards the downside. Now if I bring back this box, we understand why it rejects, because this area is now acting as a resistance. Now in the event that it is going to be pushing above and also comes back and retests and continue the trend towards the upside, then I do see another potential entry trade over here for a beautiful 1 to 2 risk to reward, which is essentially this trade over here. And if I go back to the 4 hour, since this is also coming into the resistance point, if at all it struggles to continue to rally and for some reason it breaks below, then I believe the 4 hour is now shifting bearish. High chances that instead of continuing the trend to go to the upside, market may choose to come back to retest this box before the continuation towards the upside. So in that case, I would pretty much lose the entire profits that I've made so far. So as a precaution, I already moved my stop loss at a very small win, just in case if the 4 hour reverses when the market opens, and if I get stopped out, then it's okay, fine. At least I'll close this trade in a profit. So that's AUDCHF, right? I'm looking for a continuation buy over here, and if at all it breaks above this daily resistance, turning it into a support, then there might just be another beautiful 1 to 2 risk to reward trade over here. Moving on to NZDCAD. So if I go on the weekly for NZDCAD, this particular trade has come back to this zone over here, which previously acted as a resistance. Now I believe broke above, acting as a support, broke above, coming back over here, hopefully acting as a support and to have a continuation trend towards the upside. Now, can it happen this upcoming week itself? Maybe not, I don't know. Maybe it could just buffer over here, like forming an indecision doji candle over here before the next candle pushes up. That can happen. I see a lot of wicks that has been forming here. so it could also wick me out as well. So gotta be careful for this trade. But overall, the weekly is a buy, the daily is also a buy, and the daily came all the way down, tried to break below the daily EMA, but the next candle actually closed beautifully above this daily EMA and above my zone of interest. And if I look at the 4 hour, currently it's a buy as well. So I'm pretty much expecting some sort of a buffer here, and eventually this 4 hour EMA to come down, and then it may test and then push downwards, but eventually break above this 4 hour EMA and continue to push towards the upside. That is my expectation. There is always a probability that when it tests this 4 hour EMA, for it to reject and then go below and wick me out as well. So got to be careful on this particular entry. But essentially this is a pro trend trade, weekly buy, daily buy, 4 hour buy. Therefore obviously I'm looking for a buy. Now moving on to EURGBP. EURGBP looks like it's beautifully rejecting over here, so I'm expecting to sell. The sell will be a pro trend trade because the weekly, this is the lower low, this is the lower high. Weekly is a sell, so I want to sell. Daily is technically a buy, so I needed to break below this box, come back and retest, and then any sort of lower time frame shifts will be my push towards the sell. And well, technically right now 4 hour is a sell. This is the lower low, this is the lower high, and the 4 hour looks pretty interesting. Why? Because it has been testing these upper zones pretty much a few times over here. So if at all it breaks this upper zone and breaks this EMA, chances are it may rally upwards. So if that happens, then this trade is no longer valid. But if it's going to create a new lower low and then on the pullback, most probably that's our entry point for a continuation for a downtrend sell. So EURGBP, I'm looking for a potential sell that will be invalidated if it breaks above and breaks above this EMA. Then that would tell me that, hey, you know what, market is probably going to rally higher, right? Next pair would be AUDCAD. Now, AUDCAD on a weekly is pretty much a sell. This is the lower low and this is the lower high, and market is curving right now, and that's a very beautiful doji candle that we can see has already formed. And as usual, when this kind of indecision candle forms, it kind of curves towards the downside. So I'm expecting similar kind of curve towards the downside. Having the weekly sell, the daily pretty much is also a sell. This is the lower low and this is the lower high. So I'm expecting a push towards the downside. And if I go to the 4 hour as well, pretty much is a sell right now. The EMA for the 4 hour is also pushing it towards the downside over here. I see a beautiful wick that pretty much liquidated all the buy entries over here, came back down. So any sort of break below and a retest will be a potential entry over here. I do see a shoulder, head, shoulders pattern that can also retest and eventually break towards the downside in the smaller time frames. So let's see, weekly sell, daily sell, 4 hours sell. I'm looking to sell. Now, moving on to AUDJPY. Now, AUDJPY for this pair, to be fair, weekly is pretty much a sell. It was a very strong engulfing sell candle. But I'm looking for a potential buy over here just for the next candle to continue to form like this, because I see that it has been having a very strong pretty much correction rally all the way to the upside. And I can see like previously before this engulfing candle formed, there was 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks, so 1 whole month of continuation buy before a huge dump. So I'm expecting something similar to play out as well. Weekly is sell, daily is sell, so technically this is a high risk counter trend trade. But I see that the daily EMA has already been broken. Instead of this area which is supposed to act as a resistance, somehow JPY pairs, they keep pushing towards the upside, right? And as of now, it has actually shifted the 4 hour into a buy. So any sort of a pullback, then I expect for a potential entry over there for a continuation for a buy as well. Now, I got to remember that this is risky. This is a counter trend trade. So I got to really see if there is some sort of a pullback and the market is shifting in the lower time frame from a sell back into a buy. I gotta wait for my shift of structure, and if possible, I gotta wait for my engulfing candles to form and get my entries, get the market to show its hand first before I enter this trade, because technically this is a risky counter trend trade. So I'll wait patiently and see how the market opens, and I will react accordingly. Once again, I'm not really rushing for taking as many trades as possible. I'm trying to aim for like really good quality trades, so that I know that I'm committing to A grade trades, or at least B plus grade trades, depending on how the candlesticks are printing. I don't want to just jump into a counter trend trade unless it really looks promising. Moving on to USDCAD. Now USDCAD, this one is also a pro trend trade, but I see that the weekly, the higher high is here, the higher low is here, and the market curved down and has been making a very strong push towards the downside. It came and it retested the weekly EMA, technically kind of closed below. Now this box, I'm expecting it to act as a support, but just look at the momentum, like 1, 2, 3 weeks continuously it has been pushing towards the downside, right? So do I think this week it's going to have an immediate push to the upside? I don't know. Maybe it can create another push to the downside. In fact, before moving to the upside, before bouncing off this EMA for this week, it can even create a very strong week to the downside before pushing to the upside. So liquidating everyone who goes for a buy immediately, right? So that can happen as well. If I look at the daily, but technically the daily is still a buy, this being the higher high, and over here this being the higher low. So it has been a very good pullback. This is the zone I'm expecting it to push, but I don't know if I'm gonna get such a push, so I'm gonna continue to monitor. And 4 hours is pretty much a sell right now, and obviously it's going to be a sell because it's been rallying towards the downside to reach this particular zone. And if at all I'm looking for an entry, any shift of lower time frame, I gotta enter, and I understand that it has to pass through this zone, then that entire zone can act as a resistance. So it may be too much to ask for this particular trade, but nevertheless it's a decent trade as well. I'm gonna continue to watch this trade and see how it potentially comes up in the next upcoming week. Moving on to GBPCAD. Now GBPCAD, I see a beautiful fall, bounce off, came back and breaking slightly below. I'm expecting it to go back and retest this box over here that I've drawn, where I see beautiful structure point over here, and also over here. So 3 structure points, hence this is a decent zone that I think market can just come back and retest before making the continuation trend towards the upside. And also I see that by the time the market comes down here, at least the EMA may also act as a support that's also growing towards the upside over here before any sort of reversal to the upside. So this is technically a counter trend trade because the weekly is still bullish, the daily is also bullish. So this is technically a counter trend trade. In fact, I'm expecting the market to break below this daily EMA coming in as a resistance, the round psychological number of 1.88000, this orange line coming in as a resistance. So if I go down to the 4 hour, the 4 hour is technically a sell right now. Any sort of break below, right, I am expecting a pullback to a continuation downtrend. This is the trade that we got pretty much wicked out, but actually even if we did not get wicked out, eventually we would have been wicked out over here because I was technically sort of wrong in terms of the direction. So I think the market is eventually going to break towards the downside and then continue towards the downside. So GBPCAD is a sell. Now moving on to USDCHF. USDCHF, this is actually kind of a beautiful trade that I missed the entry point. I saw on a weekly, this is pretty much the inverse head and shoulders pattern. This is the shoulder, and this is the head, and this is the shoulder that pretty much broke above and came back to retest this neckline over here, right? And then it bounced back, right? Actually, I can even say that if I were to draw like this would be even better, right? This is the shoulder, and then this is the head, and I can also say this was the shoulder and this was the break, right? When it broke this neckline or even this neckline, right? When it broke this neckline, okay, it did come back and retest the neckline and had the push towards the upside, right? Somehow the market came back again to retest the zone, and the expectation is the continuation of the trend towards the upside, right? This is the expectation for the market to play out, and actually that's what the market has been playing out. Most probably the trade has already ended, but yeah, that is the trade that I missed out because of the multiple weekouts over here. I was not getting a proper entry in the lower time frame. But if at all, this is on a daily. Daily is technically a sell, though weekly is a buy. If at all there is a push towards the downside and then a push towards the upside, I may consider an entry for USDCHF for a potential buy, and the buy will still line up with a weekly buy, right? And if I look at the trade right now for the 4 hours for USDCHF, it is pretty much technically just ranging. So most probably if it comes back and then pushes back up, this EMA holds, most probably it's going to rally towards the upside. In fact, if I look at this particular curve over here, I don't know if I'm going to get that pullback as well. Most probably when the market opens, it can always continue to rally towards the upside and go ahead and hit the TP as well. So I'm just going to watch, but it's not an immediate trade that I'm very much interested to enter. That's why it's pretty much lower in my choices. But yeah, USDCHF, I'm looking for a buy. Moving on to EURJPY. EURJPY is pretty much similar. This will be also a counter trend trade, simply because we had a very strong engulfing candle, sell candle that held this weekly EMA, and ever since then market has been pushing towards the upside. I expect the market to continue to slowly grind towards the upside. Though the weekly is sell, the daily is also a sell pretty much. The daily EMA is coming in as a resistance. If at all the market breaks above and then a retest of the EMA, most probably it's going to continue to rally towards the upside. But in order to get a good 1 to 2 risk to reward, the stop loss has to be placed in a place where it makes sense. And by right, for it to make sense, it has to be below this area of interest and below this 4 hour lower low. But I'm not getting a good 1 to 2 risk to reward if I do that. So in order to get a 1 to 2 risk to reward, my stop loss might end up being placed in a place where I can get wicked out like this as well. So it's pretty risky counter trend trade. So not on top of my immediate trade list, but it is still there. I'm still keeping an eye. EURJPY for a potential buy. And the next trade will be NZDUSD. So New Zealand dollar, US dollar. This is also a counter trend trade, as the weekly is a sell. As we can see, this is the lower low, this is the lower high, and the daily is also pretty much a sell, this being the lower low, this being the lower high. But as I thought the market has already pushed towards the downside, we can see that the last 2 days, the market came down all the way, tested this EMA, and then pushed all the way up, and the next candle printed all the way, almost breaking above, almost changing the structure points over here from a sell into a buy. So the pattern is showing me that, hey, high chances market is going to continue to push towards the upside. If I go to the 4 hour candlesticks right now, it is also pushing towards the upside. So I'm going to continue to monitor, and if at all it's breaking above this round psychological number of 0.59000, right? And let's say when the market opens, right, it breaks above and then pulls back to retest or even closes the day above. Now the daily bias also shifts into a buy, and in that case I may consider to enter for a quick trade over here for a 1 to 2 risk to reward for a counter trend trade, because the weekly is still a sell, right? At that point of time, maybe the daily shifts as a buy, but it's going to still be a counter trend trade buy for NZDUSD. And last but not least is pretty much gold. This particular trade, once again, the weekly is still looking strong, though it's slowing down compared to this previous breakout candle. The market is still rallying last week as well towards the upside, printed a huge week as well. I can see the daily is still bullish, but it's slowly curving up. I entered for the buy for this particular trade, and I'm still holding that buy for this particular trade simply because I see that the market came back to retest this zone, and pretty much I can say that this candle printed as a sell candle for the last 2 days. This was pretty much Thursday, right? So it printed as a sell candle, right? It closed over here. Next candle opened. It did break all the way below. We can see that the wick was pretty much formed below, but eventually pushed towards the upside and closed up here. So I see this as a potential comeback and retest this zone, this box over here, and then now continue to push towards the upside and most probably continue the trend until it reaches 4,500. But at least that's what I'm looking for. That's what I'm hoping for the market to do. Can it pretty much roll over? Most definitely yes, because it has been moving up and up and up for quite some time. But I still believe there's some room for it to push itself. So weekly is a buy, daily is a buy, 4 hour is a sell, right? Technically this is a lower low, this is the lower high. It could even be that the market just came back to retest these structure points over here and eventually rolling over and pushes towards the downside. But one of the reasons in why I'm still holding on to this trade is because if I look at the daily, it is still pushing towards the upside. The last candle could have pushed towards the downside and closed, but it is somehow holding over here. I'm still counting on a expectation to push towards the upside. But I do bear in mind that I can see somehow pretty much a head and shoulders pattern that has formed over here that pretty much is also signaling to me that, hey, this is shoulder, head, shoulder, and came back and retesting the neckline, and most probably it's going to resolve towards the downside as well. So if that happens, my stop loss would definitely be hit, right? If I go down to the 1 hour, the EMA is still intact. The 1 hour came all the way here and it's curving. If that 1 hour continued to push towards the upside, then it was pretty much a retest of this zone before pushing towards the upside, right? But if this also breaks below, the next opportunity is for it to retest over here and bounce. The reason, or one of the main reason I'm still holding on to this trade is because my stop loss is placed in a place where if it gets hit, then I'm completely wrong. Market is going to continue to rally towards the downside. So that's why I'm willing to risk this 1% over here. And if it breaks below and breaks this EMA as well, then any sort of a pullback, I'll be ready to sell gold instead of buying gold. So it's just the momentum. Let's see how the market does. If it chooses to just buffer over here and continue to push towards the upside, and if that happens, in that case, great, I'll hit my GP. And if it's not, it's going to push towards the downside and it hits my stop loss, but it breaks the 4 hour EMA as well that's growing up. So if it breaks towards the downside, then it comes back to retest, then that would be my entry signal to go for a sell for gold. So that's pretty much it. That's all the trade that I'm looking at. Once again, I am holding on to gold and AUDCHF and the rest of the trade as per mentioned. So thank you so much for your time, guys, and have a good day. Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.